and I'll just pull it off the computer.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So I forgot to do that at the very beginning, so we missed taping Dr. Threadgill's intro, but I'll let the folks who weren't able to join us today know a little bit more. Okay. So, well, of course, now this is not. All right. Do you mind forwarding for me, please?
I don't think it's in technology. It's great when it works.
I know,
yes,
right?
Exactly. It's not in
Goodness.
full share screen, but I'm trying to get rid of this.
Oh, maybe that's why.
Michelle are about as tech savvy as I am.
There we go.
All right, let's try this now. And my font is not working.
I don't know.
Goodness gracious. Okay, so ignore the screen. I'm just going to talk. So we're going to cover kind of a who's who. I'm going to have you all introduce yourselves, and we have, I believe, a few of the faculty members on, and they will introduce themselves and kind of talk a little bit about their individual projects. We're going to have a brief overview of extension, kind of get a feel for what you all already know, and then how what you're going to be doing this summer is going to tie in to the research and the extension component. We're going to also talk about the vision for the apprenticeship program and what the expectations are of you as students in this program, and then maybe a little bit about what you hope to get out of it as well. And then talk about our evaluation process, because this entire program is actually funded by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And so we have certain requirements that we have to report back to them in terms of metrics. And so we will be asking over the course of the summer for you to fill out certain forms or provide some reflections, and then your mentors will be evaluating you throughout, so that we have some data to send back. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. Okay, so let's start with who's who. You already met Dr. Threadgill, and I will go ahead and start with the folks on the far end. Dr. Chris, are you still online with us?
Am I?
Yes, you are. We can hear you now.
Okay.
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Yeah, I don't think I don't have the camera set up.
Okay.
But hello, I'm Dr. Chris. I'm in the Department of Food Science, Nutrition, and Health Promotion. I am really looking forward to working with Abby and the other extension apprentices as I meet them. What all did you want us to say?
Do you give them a little bit overview about your actual project? Because all 8 are very different.
Okay. So water plays an important role in food processing, not only in meat, but other industry, other areas of industry. And water is often overlooked as a main ingredient because, we get it from the tap. We don't think too much about it, but water can actually influence yield, quality, and sometimes even safety of food products. So in my specific project, we're going to look at the impact of water in meat marination systems and how water quality or water composition impacts meat and yield and quality.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Does anybody have any questions for Dr. Christ? And who's Abby again? Abby. Okay, so Abby's in the room here, so I'm excited to get to meet Abby, and I'll learn everybody's names before the end of the summer, I promise.
Well, I know that like my apprenticeship does more like with the grass and soil side of like which one will contribute most to like cattle. So I'm wondering if we're going to get to see each other some, because if they're doing more like the large side with beef and cattle, I just wondering.
Yeah, I don't know, Dr. Chris. Name Corianne. Yes. So Corianne's going to be working with Dr. Lemus, looking at some forage issues and water issues and forages for cattle. And she was asking if there's any chance. Come on in. Hi. She was asking if there's any chance that her path would cross with Abby's path as they're working on their projects this summer.
With Abby's project?
Yes.
Probably not, because we're looking more at industrial. I guess it could impact. We can certainly talk about crossing over, but she was looking at she's planning to look at more of the industry side and what is actually pulled from taps, or even if industry is actually treating their water in-house to improve their yield. You're a little bit difficult to hear, but I would be happy to talk with you more.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, do we have any other faculty members on the line with us? Okay, I'm gonna say no. So let's go ahead and Hannah, would you go ahead and introduce yourself, please, and tell us about the project you're gonna be working on?
I'm Hannah Irwin. I'll be working with Dr. Canales in the Department of Agricultural. She's in the Department of Agricultural Economics. We're looking at food safety implementations for vegetable growers and the cost to implementing those things to farmers and just stuff of that nature.
The financial aspect of things. Okay,
Yes,
excellent. Yes, I mean, agriculture and money go hand in hand, right? Okay, so thank you, Hannah. What is your major and what year are you?
My major is environmental economics and management, and I'm going to be a junior this coming semester.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. All right, Candace. Did we lose you, Candace? Are you still with us? Uh-oh. Oh, Dr. Canales is on, so, oh, and.
Candace is there too.
Okay, Candace, can you hear us? Go ahead and unmute her. Well, we should be able to unmute her.
It's on her side.
There we go. Hi, Candace, tell us a little bit about yourself, the project you're going to be working on, your major, and what year you are. Candace, can you hear us? Okay, so we're gonna skip Candace for a second, and then we're gonna go to Dr. Canales. Can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Would you like to give us a little bit of introduction about yourself, your role at the university, and the project that you and Hannah will be working on?
Yes, I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself earlier. I was having technical problems. I'm Elizabeth Canales. I am in the Department of Agricultural Economics, and I have an extension teaching appointment. So I'm going to be working with Hannah, and I think Hannah already sort of explained what the problem is, what the project is about. So we're going to be looking at food safety implementation and the barriers that farmers face when they have to implement those practices, and a little bit of how they may impact their access to the market as well, and what the cost of implementing those practices is.
Okay, thank you. All right, I see Ms. Sansing.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Dr. Jeannie. I had myself on mute a while ago. My name is Ann Sansing. I serve as an extension instructor and a community health coordinator. Diana, I don't know if I think she was on the call on her phone possibly.
Okay.
Will be working with us this summer with the Rural Medical and Science Scholars Program and with Junior Master Wellness Volunteer Program. And in those, she's going to get a lot of experience working with program planning and coordination, working with teens, doing another little bit of a program, expanding on an injury and illness simulation project that we have going, working with our RECs, Extension Center, Research Extension Center. I forgot my title of Research Extension Center heads. That's not it. But anyway, she's going to be working with them.
That's why I am Research and Extension Center department heads.
Thank you, Dr. Gresham. These acronyms kind of get mixed up a little bit. But she's going to be working with them as we do in-service for our Junior Master Wellness Volunteer Program and planning for that in June. So she's going to get thrust into the extension, back end program planning, plus also working with students, working with faculty and staff. So she's going to get a varied array of experience of what extension work is like.
That's great. Thank you. Okay, so I think we've got Candace back on audio. So Candace, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and the project you're going to be working on?
Hi everyone, I'm Candace McKnight. I'm a junior here at the University of Arkansas at Pine Bluff. I'm majoring in animal science and pursuing studies in soil science. I'm going to be working with the soil. I apologize. I'm going to be working on the project with the soil, and I'm very looking forward to being there with you guys.
So you're going to be working with Dr. Baker?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right, and Dr. Beth Baker is in the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Aquaculture, and she has a primary extension program that looks at soil conservation and water conservation in agricultural settings, working with landowners to do management plans. And so I'm assuming Candace is going to be working with her on some of those ongoing projects. Okay. All right. Who else do we have with us on the line? Have I missed anybody? Okay, I'm going to assume we got everybody there. So let's move to in-house. And let's go ahead and start with Matthew.
Hey guys, my name is Matthew Burden. I'm a wildlife fisheries and aquaculture major, senior, about to be a fifth-year senior first semester. I'm working with Dr. Sparks in Fairfield, Alabama, working on coastal restoration, looking at living shorelines, and benefits, and how they can shorelines conserve.
Hopefully I didn't just unplug the microphone, did I?
No, you're good.
Is that as far as it'll go? Okay, so you guys are gonna have to talk up just a little bit. Sorry. All right, so yeah, for those of you that may not have heard Matthew, he is actually not going to be in Starkville with the rest of you. He's gonna be living it up down on the coast between Mississippi and Alabama, working with Dr. Sparks, who is actually housed at one of our research and extension centers down in Biloxi. And so you'll be back and forth between Biloxi and Alabama at the Weeks Bay Preserve. Okay, so very good, thank you.
I'm Corianne Schmidt, and I'm also a wildlife fisheries and aquaculture major. I don't know if my concentration is wildlife agriculture conservation. And I'm a junior. I'm going to be working with Dr. Lemus doing the apprenticeship for forage and grazing stewardship. It's a long name, but I'm looking forward to that. We're going to be, I met with them last week, and from what I can gather from our meeting, we're going to be taking like samples of like crabgrass, ryegrass, and some other types of grass. We're going to see which ones are kind of the most beneficial towards cattle and which one they absorb the best for the nutrients and such. And so I guess I'm going to be working with a little bit of poop too, but that's okay, you know. Doesn't matter, get down a little dirty. But I'm looking forward to it. It'll be my first internship, and I'm hoping to gain as much as I can. So
wonderful. Well, welcome. And I will say my undergraduate degree is in wildlife ecology and conservation, so that's always been my heart. And I did have a professor tell me one time that you can learn a lot from poop. So, you know, hopefully you'll learn quite a bit, and more than just from the poop. And now, so Corianne is actually going to be working with one of our other students, Lizzie. And there's a Candace. Do you know Lizzie? Since y'all are both from University of Arkansas.
Yes, ma'am. She's my classmate.
Okay, cool.
Okay, wonderful. So good. So you'll have somebody here that you know off the bat, and as you're learning to meet as you're getting the other MSU students. So Lisney Reds is also from University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, and she will also be working with Dr. Lemus. So you guys will get to work some together, and then I think he'll have you all on separate projects as well.
Yeah.
So.
We talked about
Okay.
a little bit. So he's got a couple different projects that he could either put us on together or separate.
Excellent. So hopefully that'll be a good experience for you. Okay, next.
My name is Maya Wilson. I am a junior studying food science with a concentration in technology. I'll be working under Mrs. Ann Simpson. Work with the community health empowerment research, community health empowerment education and research apprenticeship with the Rural Medical Scholars Program.
Okay. Perfect. And what was your major, you said?
Food science.
Food science. Okay. Wonderful. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Katrina Han. I'm a 5th year senior, about to be a 6th year senior, and that's it, thank God. But I'm going to be working with Dr. Gordon. I'm in forestry, and we'll be working on looking at disaster prevention in a bunch of communities across the state and post-disaster recovery, especially when it comes to wood waste.
Yeah, and so Dr. Gordon typically does a lot of mixed methods or qualitative research. So I think your experience is going to be a little bit different in that you're going to get a lot of qualitative experience compared to some of your other cohorts that are going to be getting more quantitative. So yeah, that'll be interesting. Cool.
Okay, so I'm Abby Schnedler. I'm a junior in the Animal and Dairy Science department. So I'm working under Dr. Chris, and she sort of explained my project, but this is sort of kind of what I'm used to. I worked in research with meat science stuff before, so it's kind of what I'm interested in. Really excited to learn more about, food safety and different stuff through Dr. Chris.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm Shauna Downs. I'm a sophomore coming junior, animal and dairy science major. I'm going to be working with Dr. Cavender this summer on the horse safety awareness in the state of Mississippi.
Great. And what's your major, you said?
Animal and dairy science.
Animal and dairy science. Okay. All right. So as you can see, we have a pretty varied range of students and backgrounds and experience. And so hopefully this will be a pretty good opportunity for you all to get to know a little different side than what you've had before. So next up, we're going to talk a little bit about extension and what the extension mission and vision is or are. Many of you said that you were already familiar with extension, and in Mississippi State, we definitely are like most other extension systems. And that's Dr. Lemus right up there, actually. So, yeah. And so, like Dr. Threadgill said, we have 4 very different program areas, but they all interact very closely because everything we do is tied to agriculture, right? Everything we eat, everything we wear, it has to come from the ground somehow. So there's definitely, thank you. There's definitely that component of it. And extension is here to help impart unbiased science-based knowledge to the general public, whatever that audience might be, so that they can then in turn take that information and use it to gain skills, gain awareness, gain knowledge, change their behaviors, and ultimately improve the quality of their lives, whether it's their personal lives, their business, their family, whatever that component might be. So hopefully you guys will get real hands-on experience this summer, seeing how the research that takes place at the university gets translated into those extension tools and information. I mean, that's really what we want you to get out of this, is to see that connection between the research at the university and how that translates to real life information and education. So the goals of extension really are to focus on quality services and programs that are driven by what our clients, the citizens of Mississippi, tell us are their needs. But we also want to make sure that individuals that work and are associated with extension recognize the value of what we have to offer versus just going on Google and asking the question in Google, right? Because you can get lots of different pieces of information on Google, but it's not necessarily fact-based or research-based or even true for that matter, right? And so that's one, I think for us working in extension, that's one characteristic that I feel is something we have to offer that's unique. And so, you know, we are able to respond to our clients in a way that is more immediate to their needs. And we want to be able to build people's capacity to do more for themselves and for others. And so that's really what Extension's about. And so as part of your role here, we want you to feel like you are part of this Extension family during the time that you're here as part of the apprenticeship and even after that. So when you go out, you will be representing Extension, not just yourself. You'll be representing the university, representing Extension. And so we want you to truly understand what Extension's all about so that you can speak about it comfortably, right? Okay. So the second page of that handout, and I will send this to those of you that are online, is some important contacts. So you already know how to get a hold of me, but I have my information up top if you have general questions about the apprenticeship. Ms. Fisackerly is one of our administrative assistants here, and so as you're working with your faculty mentor, and if you have to travel or you have to make purchases, Ms. Fisackerly is going to be the one who will fill out all the paperwork for you for travel and for reimbursement. So make sure that you keep her in the loop with what's happening. Ms. Washington has been already in contact with all of you with regarding payroll and getting you signed in. So if there's any paperwork that you have not filled in or forms that need to be filled out, please make sure that you guys do that as soon as possible, because the last thing I want is for you all to not get paid, right? I'm sure that one of the incentives of you applying for this project was that it was a paid apprenticeship, not a free one. And so I want to make sure that you guys do get your paychecks. So make sure that if there's any missing paperwork like the I-9s or whatever, that you get those done. And then last but not least, we are trying a social media presence for this program as a way to help market it and recruit for future students. And so if you have an existing Instagram or Twitter account and you would like to tag us as you do different things over the course of the summer, working in the research lab, if you're in the lab or working out in the field or doing an extension project, we would encourage you to tag us and use the hashtag learning by doing, because that is what Extension is all about, and just help promote the program, because obviously to recruit somebody that looks like you, you don't want to look at somebody that looks like me, right? We want you all to help us bring other students in, because it's a whole lot easier for you to talk about the benefits of the program and what you got out of it to help other students see that, rather than me standing up here where I'm old enough to be your mom. So nobody wants to hear from me do that. Okay, so next up, we're gonna talk. Well, okay, I'm going to stop here for a second because I've completely neglected to introduce Dr. Hardman. My apologies.
You're fine.
So Dr. Hardman is the evaluator on this grant and for this program, and so she's the one that has helped develop all of the evaluation tools that you will see both directly and indirectly for us to get the information that we need. So I'll let her introduce herself very briefly here.
So I'm Dr. Alicia Hardman. I am an assistant professor here in the School of Human Sciences along with Dr. Denny. And I have a predominantly extension appointment. I'm both a family life specialist, so I do some programming around family and consumer sciences that we were talking about earlier, but then I'm also an evaluation specialist. So I serve as an evaluator on grants similar to this one to make sure that we're collecting the right data, that we can report back to our funders, but also to demonstrate hopefully that this was meaningful and beneficial, and hopefully use that to secure some more funding. So, and I'm also technology in the background on occasion. My husband's an IT guy, so I've learned enough from him that I can usually figure things out. So
you can be dangerous.
Yes, I can. I know enough to be dangerous. That's exactly right. So you all probably will not see me all that much. However, if you do have any evaluation related questions, or as you're working on your projects, if you decide you want to develop an evaluation tool, you're more than welcome to contact me, and I'd be happy to work with you to develop something.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
All right, so some of the pictures up on this slide right now are of our students who were in the program last year. And so those 8 projects were very different than the 8 projects that are taking place this year. Some of our faculty, like Dr. Christ, had an apprentice last year, but her project was different. And same with Dr. Baker, had a student last year, You can see them down there in the bottom left corner. And so some are the same, some are different, but you know, the experience is going to be unique to each of you. And really the way this whole apprenticeship is set up is a threefold project. Okay, so we're looking at making sure that you all have an experiential learning opportunity. And experiential means that you are learning by doing, that you're going to have an experience, it's going to be hands-on, and then from that we're going to ask you to reflect on what you've learned, why is it meaningful, and how you're going to apply it either to your personal or professional life down the road. Okay, and so that reflection helps to develop critical thinking, which is something that we all need. And I'm sure many of you have some critical thinking skills already, and we're constantly getting better at critical thinking. So this is some of what we're trying to strive for with this project, is to help you all develop your critical thinking skills by actually hands-on learning. The other component to it is adult mentoring. So the faculty that you have been paired with will serve as your mentor for the 12 weeks, okay? And so mentoring, but we're doing adult mentoring. You guys are adults, right? You're not youth. And so there's a different way of mentoring an adult versus mentoring a child. And so we have worked with our faculty members to help them understand what those differences and how to interact with you all to help you all feel comfortable, build relationships, ask the right questions, challenge your way of thinking, and think about your future and really work on problem solving and teamwork and critical thinking and all of those kinds of things. And so the other aspect of mentoring is that it is reciprocal. And so it's not meant to be one way. Your faculty mentor is not going to be just talking at you. The point is for you to have a very good working professional relationship with them and working with them directly so that it's very much back and forth, right? They're learning as much from you as you are from them. And that's what we're hoping to get out of this. And then the third part of it is the entire program is based on the DEAL model, and I'll actually have Dr. Hardman explain a little bit more about what that model is.
Sure. So the DEAL model is a model that's been used to assess critical thinking, but also to help promote critical thinking. So often when we're busy doing and we're involved in a new experience, we're so busy doing it that we don't necessarily take the time to really think about what we're learning from this experience or what we're getting out of it. And so what the DEAL model does is it helps us to slow down and take just a minute to think through, okay, what did I learn? What was the experience? What did I learn from it? And how am I going to apply that learning in the future? And we'll talk a little bit more about what that's going to look like for you all over the course of your 12-week apprenticeship. But just keep in mind that it's not just a way for us to evaluate and determine how you're thinking critically, but it's also a way to help develop those critical thinking skills as well. So
you'll see that a lot of the things that we're asking you to do, aside from the actual project itself, is based on this model so that we can get at that critical thinking component. So any questions so far from anybody? I know I keep turning the back of my head to the folks in the video, and I'm sorry. So, okay. All right, so now let's talk a little bit about expectations of you all as students, okay? So this is a weird sort of arena because yes, you are students, but for this summer, you are working for the university as employees. And so they're very different roles, right, and expectations and responsibilities. So I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And like I said earlier, in this role as an apprentice, you are going to be representing Mississippi State University, you're going to be representing the Extension Service, and you're going to be representing the faculty mentor with whom you're working. So because of that, professionalism, it seems like a given, but we want to make sure that everybody understands what that means. We recognize that some of you are going to be out in the field sorting through poop. I don't expect you to be in a skirt and high heels doing that, right? But I do expect you to dress appropriately. And so everybody should understand what the appropriate dress should be for whichever situation or circumstance that you're going to be in at any given time. And it may be the nature of extension that in the morning you're out in the field and in the afternoon you're giving a presentation. So if that means you have to bring a change of clothes and be prepared to switch into high heels, then you need to be prepared to do that, okay? We also want you all to be comfortable if you're going to be working out in the field or in a lab or wherever, so just keep that in mind. In addition to dress, professionalism does include customer service. A big part of what you're going to be doing is interacting with stakeholders, interacting with the faculty mentor, interacting with graduate students, or maybe other undergraduate students doing research, interacting with support staff. So we want to make sure that you keep in mind your demeanor, your professionalism, your approach to how you're dealing with those folks. And then also just basic timeliness and accountability. So like I said, we're going to have several things that we're asking you to do. You may have deadlines, and part of that professionalism is making sure that you meet those deadlines. And if there's something that comes into play where you absolutely cannot meet those deadlines, that you come to somebody and you tell your mentor, you come to me, you come to Dr. Hardman, whoever it might be, and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this. Can you help? Right? And so asking for help is not unprofessional. If anything, it's the utmost of professionalism, because we want you to know that we are a unit, we are a family, and that's how everything works. We don't expect you to go out there and just sink or swim. Okay, that's not our process. All right. So the other aspect of expectation is that this apprenticeship is both a learning opportunity, and you'll be doing research in that. So the research that you're going to be doing is unique to each of you, right? Because you're working on different projects. But our hope is that you're going to gain more knowledge and experience with planning research, conducting research, analyzing data, and writing and presenting. So that means that one of the expectations is that you will be developing a scientific poster and or a presentation, okay? Most of our students last year did both. They had several posters, they had several presentations. We have students that are still working with their mentors after they've gone back to their respective universities, and they have developed extension publications. We've got a student who is working on 2 journal manuscripts right now with their apprentice, and so they're going to get published hopefully very soon. So all of those things are opportunities for you. Those are going to be great things that you can put on your resume as you start looking for jobs or start looking at graduate school. But also that is going to be helpful for us as well, because you guys will impart your knowledge and experience and bring to the table your experience and fresh eyes to everything that we're doing. Okay, so we're really looking forward to that. The third component is obviously the extension. And so like I said earlier, we want you to understand that connection between the research and the community outreach. You are going to be working with stakeholder groups, so whatever that might be, if it's 4-H youth, if I know with the horses, you'll probably be doing a lot of equine 4-H programs over the summer. If it might be working with business owners, or producers, or farmers, or college kids that want to, or high school kids that want to potentially get into a health career. And so just think about those individuals and put yourselves in their shoes as you're interacting and communicating with them. And then we would also expect that in that process, you would be contributing to the development of maybe some extension publications or presentations or even curriculum. Okay. So those are sort of the broad overarching things, but ultimately we want you to have a fun experience. Okay, this is a job. But we really do want you to enjoy this experience and walk away from it going, wow, that was kind of cool. I'm glad I did that. I'm glad I got selected, and hopefully I'll have an opportunity to do something like that again. And so some of how we think that you can make that happen is by open communication. So make sure that you collaborate very closely with your faculty members. Some of you, like in Matthew's case, you're not physically going to be where Dr. Sparks is. You're going to be in Alabama. He's going to be in Biloxi in Mississippi. And you guys are going to be communicating a lot by phone, right? But you're probably only going to physically see each other once or twice a week. And so it's really going to be important that you maintain open communication with him through whatever means that might be, and make sure that if you have any issues or problems, that you share that information and keep those lines of communication open. Okay. All right. So there are 3 different kind of major ways that we're going to try and do evaluation for this. And Dr. Hardman already talked about the critical reflection component, but I'll have her talk about exactly what that's going to look like.
Sure.
We'll see in a second.
So the DEAL model stands, it's an acronym, it stands for, each letter stands for a word. And so the D is describe, the E is examine, and then the A and L are articulate learning. And so the D and the E portion of the DEAL model, you are actually going to address with your faculty mentor during guided reflective conversations. And the faculty mentors are going to have those prompts. They're going to be similar prompts for all of you. And so that's going to happen just through kind of a conversation with your faculty mentor. And then we're going to look at the AL, the articulated learning portion of that model through weekly reflections. And so you're going to have these prompts that you see up here. You're going to have some additional description on how to go about responding to these. But basically each week you're going to think about something that you learned, something that you experienced and learned over the course of that week, and respond to these prompts. Say, I learned, talk about what you learned over the course of the week. I learned this when, talk about what happened and how you went about learning that. This learning matters because, and then ultimately in light of this learning, what are you gonna do? How are you gonna apply that in future situations? And so we're gonna have a link that you will just go in, and it's a Qualtrics survey. It'll be very, hopefully quick and simple and easy for you guys just to go in and fill those in on a weekly basis. And again, that's as much for you all to help you process what you're learning as it is for us to make sure that you guys are getting something out of this experience.
So I will say that this is something that it may seem excessive and it may seem like a pain in the butt. I get it. Not everybody likes to write, right? But I will say that this is something extremely important for us to collect. And so we really want everybody to do them on a weekly basis. So there will be 12 of these over the 12 weeks. And I will sort of be a little bit of a school marm when it comes to this. So if Monday morning comes around and you haven't submitted yours for the previous week, you'll be getting a phone call. Hey, just take 10 minutes. I don't care where you are. Do it on your cell phone. Whatever you got to do, just get these in. So we're really gonna be checking on you to make sure those get done. As far as evaluating the objectives, your faculty mentors have established some objectives of what they want you to learn and do and be able to do through this apprenticeship. But one of the things that is important as adult learners is that you guys set your own objectives as well, right? We want you to have expectations and want you to identify goals that you want to achieve that may be different or separate from what your faculty mentors have set for you. So if you haven't already done so in meeting with your faculty mentor, have a conversation with them very early on, like the first day, first week, of what specifically you would like to get out of this. What are your objectives, whether they're personal learning objectives, professional learning objectives, and then make sure that those are written down somewhere so that by the end of the 12 weeks, you and your faculty mentor, as you're having your reflective conversations, are going to be able to say, look, we met these objectives, or no, we didn't, and why didn't we? And kind of figure out that whole process. So that's a little less formal, but we definitely want you to have your own input into this project because it's not their project. It's your project collaboratively, okay? We want you to have ownership of that. And then finally, like I said, this is a job, right? And so we are going to be, well, I say we, your faculty mentors will be evaluating you at the end of the 12 weeks on professional competencies. Because ultimately you're going to be going out and trying to find a job. And so we want to make sure that we're helping develop some of those competencies, whether it be written and oral communication skills, being able to work in teams, being able to solve problems and think critically, being able to work with diverse audiences, because that is something in extension that is, I mean, we are a global community. And so you're going to be meeting people of different types and abilities and backgrounds, and you have to know how to interact with them. And then ultimately the knowledge of your discipline, right? So if you're animal and dairy science, or if you're soil science or wildlife, whatever that may be, or equine, we want to make sure that at the end of the 12 weeks you have learned more than what you came in with, right? So that's pretty much that. Any questions so far? Okay. I kind of get the deer in headlights look, and I realize this first day is always a little much, but I promise you things will start to click and make sense as you get here, as you start working with your mentor and start working with the project. It'll get a little bit better. So I'll tell you everybody's names since the font has decided to do its own thing. So in the far left, that's Bree, and she worked with Dr. Christ last year, looking at creating a checklist of practices for farmers markets, whether or not they were following appropriate practices. Mayang Ponter was working with Dr. Baez, who also works with Ms. Sansing, and they were working on the Rural Medical Scholars Program. Maddie Helen was working with Dr. Parker, an equine assisted therapy program that we have here as part of Extension. And so she was working with youth that had various challenges, whether they were incarcerated youth or they had developmental disabilities or things like that. Brittany worked with Dr. Stone to look at the dairy farmers' adoption or lack thereof of on-farm bacteriological culturing in dairy farming for their management practices. And she's actually one of the ones that is working on several manuscripts right now for journal publications. So she's done quite well. And then Jillian worked with Dr. Sparks on the coast, and she was from University of Florida. So we actually had several students from other universities. So this year it's switched up. We have more students from Mississippi State. So, it'll be interesting to see how that works. But anyway, so just to give you some faces to the project and show you that, you are like these guys, and hopefully you'll have as much of a good positive experience as possible. So that's pretty much it on my end. And I wanted to open it up to anybody that, if you guys have questions or if you have any concerns right now that haven't yet been addressed, or if you just want a chance to talk to each other and figure out some stuff there.
Do you have any, I have to manage my money so that I can make sure that I have money for courses and everything. So do you know when the first time will be paid on 15th and 30th, or?
Yes, okay, so that's a great question. So yes, so the way we have it set up, employees of the university are paid at the first and the 15th, well, I guess the end and the middle of every month, right? So the checks will come right around the 15th and right around the 30th, right? Give or take a Saturday or a holiday or whatever, but it'll always go in before that. It won't go past the holiday if that takes you past the 15th. So every 2 weeks, essentially, you'll get that automatically deposited into your bank account.
Yeah, will we be needing to keep a track of our hours for that, or?
No, so that's a good question. So that was one of the things we didn't want to have you guys do was track your hours. Primarily because Extension is not a Monday through Friday 9 to 5 job, right? And so keeping track of your hours would be really, really difficult, especially if you have to travel to do a stakeholder meeting or a 4-H event in the evening or on weekends. That gets a little complicated. So I worked it out with HR that you guys don't have to do time cards. Your faculty mentors are aware of that. And so basically you work as needed. And we're not going to overwork you, promise that. It's going to be a lot of work, but we're not going to it's not a slave driving kind of thing. We're not going to overwork you guys. But you do not have to worry about keeping track of time. You do have to worry about keeping track of things like mileage and receipts and travel and all those other things, but not your time. No time lost. But that's a good question. So some of the other things, like you guys as MSU students already have a Mississippi State email. Candace and Lizney, we may just go ahead and let you maintain your University of Arkansas Pine Bluff emails and communicate with you that way, just because sometimes it's a little more, it takes longer to get those Mississippi State emails, even as employees. But I will also provide you all with name tags so that when you go out in public, you can be affiliated officially with the university. It'll show the apprenticeship logo and your name that you can wear. And I'm trying to think what else.
Is there anything about like parking permits?
Yes, parking, yes. So I will, so yes, even though you guys are students, I'm gonna get temporary parking permits for everybody, right? Is there anybody that doesn't actually have a vehicle? Candace and Hannah, you guys have vehicles?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Okay, so I will be getting in contact with each of you for your vehicle numbers and stuff, and what I'm going to do is get you temporary parking passes that will see you through the entire summer. Those parking passes will allow you to park anywhere except for service parking spaces and handicap parking spaces. So you can park right at Dorman to go work with Dr. Biggs, okay? And I don't know where Dr. Carpenter is, and Wise. So yes, you can park over the Wise instead of having to take the bus all the way to Dairy Sciences. So yes, and you can park it at, no, you were going to be down the coast, but who's working with Dr. Baker? Candace is working with Dr. Baker, right? So she can park over at Thompson Hall, no problem. So yes, we will get you situated so you don't have to trek all the way across campus in the middle of the heat of summer and the rain and whatever else Mississippi summer brings.
Right.
Yes, yeah, we will definitely do that. Great. Thank you. I keep forgetting, it's like all these things are just like in my head and I don't really think about mentioning them.
I don't think I would have to trek from the bookmark because that's where I'm parked right now because
yes,
it's expensive to pay for a parking permit.
No, yes, I looked into that last year and we will do the temporary parking taxes that we were able to allow us to cover that cost for you. So, and you guys are doing a lot for us this summer.
Do you know if there's any possibility, like after summer, there's any possibility there's some kind of thing that we can maintain doing some kind of job or like?
So that's really up to you and the individual faculty mentor. In some cases, like I know Dr. Sparks has kept Jillian on as a student worker, as an internet worker, sorry, because she's a University of Florida student, so not as a student worker, but she has continued to do some of the research for him. She was working with QGIS software to do shoreline mapping for restoration projects, and so since she's been back at University of Florida as a student, she's been working for him at a distance doing that. So I would say that's going to be between you and the faculty mentors. This project is specifically for the summer and with the hope that, you know, they will be looking at you and going, hey, come on for graduate apprenticeship or, you know, graduate assistantship or consider staying on with us to work on this job. Or we have an opportunity here with the USDA or with you know, Department of Health and Human Services or whatever it might be, that there might be some potential opportunity on that.
I finally finished my doctorates from Miss Washington. Where is she located?
She is directly downstairs. She's actually right across the hall from where we were to begin with. So if you want to go see her when we're done, please do. Is there anybody else that's having problems with their paperwork?
I got all the paperwork in, but she sent an email out about like offer letters last week, and then I emailed her back, and she said that they hadn't been sent out yet. Do you know when they'll be sent out?
I don't. It should be a pretty quick turnaround, but the reason I'm harping on all of this is because, like, I have no control over human resources and payroll, but if that doesn't get done and you guys don't get in the system, you don't get paid. So I know that, you know, some of that is important for you to pay bills and feed yourself over the summer. Imagine that. So yes, if you want to drop down and see her at the end of this, she is, so the room that we were in downstairs, she's directly across the hall. I don't know what that is. That's what, yeah, it's just right across the hall. That corner office right there. So, okay, what else am I forgetting? Any other on the video end? You guys have any questions? And Candace and Lizzie, I know you guys are not here yet, but when you do get here, I want to make sure that I meet you in person, and I'll have, you know, your name tags and a bunch of other stuff. I'm also investigating whether or not I can get you guys t-shirts, like polos. The grant will not allow us to buy swag. Imagine that. So I can't use the grant money to do that, but I may. I don't know if Dr. Threadgill is still on there. She probably isn't, but I'm going to maybe go beg my bosses, to see if they might be willing to investigate in purchasing you guys a t-shirt or a polo with the logo on it, so that there's a little bit more cohesiveness to this for all of you. Ms. Sansing or Dr. Chris, do you guys have anything to add to this that I may have forgotten?
Just talking.
You're muted, Ann.
Sorry about that. That's so crazy. I was wondering if Diana is on, Diana Wilson. I saw her phone on the other just a little bit ago, but I don't know.
She's here in the room with us. Can you move the camera? Hang on, we're gonna. Oh, where's the remote? Oh, it's
in here. Yep.
All right, Dan.
Oh, hey Diana. Sorry about that. Didn't hear that. I thought that might be you down there, but I wasn't sure. Didn't hear your name when you said that. Glad to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Dr. Chris, anything that you want to add? Or Dr. Canales?
Just looking forward to working with you and with the other apprentices, and I think it'll be a successful summer, so I'm excited.
Great, thank you. Dr. Canales, anything to add?
Thank you, Marina.
All right, thank you. All right, guys, so we're pretty much done if nobody else has any questions, but please, you have my contact information. Do not hesitate to call, email. I will be dropping by randomly during the summer. I'll be communicating with your faculty mentors and saying, hey, when are you guys going to be out in the field? When are you going to give a presentation? When are you doing a poster? I will be there, okay? Because I want to see you guys in action. I'm going to be taking pictures so that next year it's your folks, your pictures that are up on the screen. And if you have any issues, don't hesitate to contact me. All right. We're really, really glad to have you here. Thank you. All right. And for the folks at a distance, I'm going to be emailing you all the handouts that I sent to you guys today.